Right now, like maybe more than any other time I've experienced in ministry, people are so open to being invited to church. They're just waiting for someone to ask them, even more so on Christmas Eve. So a friend, coworker, neighbor, family member, whoever, invite people to Christmas Eve to hear the hope that we have, that we get to celebrate on Christmas. That's coming up in a few weeks. Also today, something that's part of our worship. By the way, how awesome was worship this morning so far? Was that not good? I mean, we shouldn't be surprised. Like Tommy and that team do such a phenomenal job week in and week out. Part of our worship every week, though, is also giving. Like if you call LifeBridge home, if you're a follower of Jesus, this is something that we do because it's who we are. We give every single week as an act of worship, saying, God, my money is not mine, it's yours. I'm just a steward of yours, so I trust you. Let me give back to you. We can do that in the boxes on the way out, or we can give online. On top of that, we don't just give as individuals, but we as a church also give collectively, which means this Sunday is extra special. Today is Level Up Sunday, and if you're new to LifeBridge, this is something that we do every year at this time of year. We have multiple partners that we financially support throughout the year, but one Sunday a year, we want to go above and beyond with generosity and give everything away. So every cent that we give as a church today will be completely given away to 3 different partners. One is an organization called CIY, standing for Christ in Youth. It's where we send our middle school and high school students to camp every year. It's an incredible organization that's doing awesome things all over the country. Personally, when I was a student, I was a part of CIY. So was my wife. It was incredibly impactful for us. They came to us and said, hey, would LifeBridge be interested in being involved in creating this tool that we're using for students to teach them how to share Jesus with their friends? It's totally about equipping and evangelism for high school and middle school students. Would you guys like to help us be a part of that by supporting it and financially giving to it? And we said, okay, that's a great sales pitch, because how can I say no to helping students evangelize? So we're in. We want to be a part of that. We're going to give to them. We're also going to give to an organization called Convoy of Hope. Convoy does incredible things across the world, a lot of stuff with disaster relief and feeding people. What we are going to do today is our partnership with Convoy is going to help them feed kids, a certain number of kids in Bangladesh for an entire year. How many kids we're going to feed for an entire year depends on how much we give as a church, but we get to do that and be a part of that. That's the second partner. And the third partner is an organization called Global DMM, standing for Disciple Making Movements. There are disciple-making movements happening in different parts of the world, especially places that haven't heard about Jesus, where the gospel is spreading like wildfire, where people by the hundreds of thousands are accepting Christ right now. That's not hyperbole or an exaggeration on my part. It's happening in places like northern India, which is what we're going to partner with DMM. We're going to give so that they can send out leaders, more and more leaders, to train local pastors and plant churches all over northern India to see this movement continue to grow. We get to be a part of that. So everything we give today as a church is going to go to those 3 different partners, and then next week, I will tell you how much we got to give away. It's one of my favorite things that I get to do every year is say, hey, here's what we gave as a church, and the phone calls that I get to make this week to those 3 partners and say, hey, here's the check that's coming. It's always more than they anticipated, and usually somebody screams in my ear on the phone. I have to pull it away. Super awesome. It's exciting. I'll tell you more about that next week and what we actually get to celebrate. Today, we're back in Esther. And let me ask you this. Has anybody in here ever played the board game Risk? Anybody Risk fans? Yeah, all right, come on. I had a Risk phase when I was like in high school and college. If you don't know Risk, it is the game of world domination. Fits my personality, it's kind of weird. And it only takes 13 hours of your life to play it. Like, that's it. If you have kids, here's what's gonna happen. They're gonna open up the game and dump out the hundreds of little pieces on the floor to play with, and then you're gonna spend the next 3 years of your life stepping on them and finding them in God knows where all over your house. Like, that's what's gonna happen. Now, the whole point of the game is for you to build up your army, strategically move it into place so that you can take out everybody else's army and conquer the world. It's very Napoleon-esque. Now, if you're smart, you're gonna move the right pieces into the right places at the right time. But at some point, you're gonna have to take a risk and make a move. Like, that's exactly where we're at in Esther's story. Like, God has been moving certain pieces into place, and now it's time to start making the move. So if you're brand new to LifeBridge, or if you've missed any of this series, you can catch up online. But here's where we're at. Esther and Mordecai, they know about Haman's plot for a literal Holocaust. Like, this guy's planning to kill every single Jew in the Persian Empire, which at the time was pretty much the entire known world. So conceivably, you could say that he was gonna kill every Jew in the world. Esther and Mordecai know about this. Mordecai sends a letter to Esther. Here's what he says to her. Don't think for a moment that just because you're in the palace that you will escape when all other Jews are killed. If you keep quiet at a time like this, deliverance and relief of the Jews will arise from some other place because he knows God's promises. But you, Esther, you and your relatives will die. Who knows if perhaps you were made queen, here's the line, for such a time as this, famous line. Then Esther sent her reply back to Mordecai. She said, go and gather together all the Jews of Susa and fast for me. Do not eat or drink for 3 days, day or night. My maids and I will do the same thing. And then, though it's against the law, I'll go see the king. And if I must die, I must die. Like, how awesome is that? Like, even though the right thing is against the law, I'll go. And if I die, I die. That's a pretty awesome thing to say. That's courageous. Now, what's against the law is going to see the king without being invited or called for. That's what was against the law. And if you just went to the king, you weren't called for, you weren't invited, the penalty was death. The only way you're not getting killed for going to see the king uninvited is if he holds out his golden scepter to you, meaning you have favor with the king. So this is a huge risk. Esther could be killed for doing this. And even if she does get to see Xerxes, there's no guarantee at all that Xerxes is gonna do anything for her. He is known to be an arrogant and ruthless guy. Xerxes really has no reason whatsoever to listen to Esther. So she's risking her life on a massive maybe. It would kind of be like you going to meet with the leader of Boko Haram right now in Nigeria and ask him to stop killing all the Christians there, even though you yourself are a Christian. There's a really good chance that he's just gonna kill you on the spot, let alone listen to your request. This is a big risk. So why take it? John Paul Jones was the founder of the United States Navy. And there's a quote of his that has always stuck with me. And it's one I gotta remind myself of at different times. Here's what he said. He said, those who will not risk cannot win. And that's true. I mean, that's the entire point of the game, risk. You cannot win unless you risk. Esther cannot win over evil unless she takes a risk. Those who will not risk cannot win. Now, there's a difference between risk and reckless. There's a difference between those two things for sure. You could say that those who are reckless eventually will wreck. To be reckless in life, that's just a bad idea. But so is being completely risk adverse. Now, I think it's fair to say that everybody in here, everybody online, we all want to win in life. Like, we all want to win. But can each of us as individuals clarify what it means to win, what we're actually trying to win? Or let me say it this way. Can we clarify what we want to win, why it matters, and what we need to risk in order to win? You know, in work, for example, like, do you want to win in your work? Like, whatever that is for you, your career, your job, do you want to win? Or what about sports? Do you want your team to win? Or if you play an individual sport, do you want to win individually? I mean, that just gets us started with the thinking. Now go deeper. What about people? Do you want to win people who are being lied to? John writes to a church leader that he personally discipled. He says in 3 John, I have no greater joy than to hear that my children are walking in the truth. When he says children, he's talking about people that he's discipled, that he's raised up in Christ. Like, do you want to win people that you know so that they're walking in the truth and not being lied to? Because we live in a world full of lies. Or take that verse literally, your own kids. Do you want to win your kids so they're walking in the truth? Or what about your circles? Do you want to win your personal circles of influence to Christ? Then think even bigger. Think eternity. I want to remind you of this often so that we don't ever forget that this life is the closest that some people will ever come to hell. And that's great news. But at the same time, this life is the closest some people will ever come to heaven. And that's terrifying. Do you want to win people to the right side of that equation? Proverbs 24:10 and 11 says that if you faint in the day of adversity, your strength is small. Rescue those who are being taken away to death. Hold back those who are stumbling to the slaughter. There are all kinds of people right now that are being taken away to some kind of death. Death by addiction. Death by suicide because of what's fed to them online. Death by abortion. Death of a marriage because of sexual deviance. Eternal death because somebody doesn't know Jesus. Those are just a couple examples. You could fill that entire list with all kinds of things that are taking people away to some kind of death, both literal and figuratively. People that are stumbling to the slaughter every minute. Are you okay with that? Like, I know you're not, and neither am I. Esther's the example in this that we have to follow. If she faints in the day of adversity, if she faints, that means the genocide of an entire people group. She can't faint. That's not an option. My whole point is, anything in life that is worth winning, that actually matters, any adversity that you're gonna face, it's going to require risk. We can't get around it, we can't get away from it. And if we just wanna be comfortable and play it safe, well, then who loses if we do that? Those who will not risk cannot win. But at the exact same time, only a fool would take on a substantial risk like this without preparing for it. For example, astronauts. The only thing I know about being an astronaut is what I've learned from Apollo 13. Do not stir the tanks. All I know is that's bad. I don't know what it means, but it's bad. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, that movie's like 35 years old. You should be caught up by now. In fact, one of the astronauts from Apollo 13, Colorado native, all right? We should know that story. Here's what I do know about astronauts. They prepare like crazy before they go into space. Like NASA's not messing around and just winging it or racing. A really good friend of mine who's a part of our church is a race car driver. He's in drag racing, which is really dangerous. I've watched the meticulous preparation that he goes through for weeks leading up to a race, and then the preparation that happens day of on the track, all for a pass that lasts for about 4 seconds. Or investing money. Before you do that, there's study, there's market analysis. Before a big investment, there's all kinds of preparation. Why? Because it's risky. And that's exactly where we're at in Esther's story. Last time we saw Haman, that dude was drinking. Last time we saw Esther, she's praying and fasting. Like, that's how she prepared. She has no idea how this risk is gonna go for her. She might get killed, but she's not gonna go into it without prayer and fasting first. This is Esther chapter 5, 1-3. On the third day of the fast, Esther put on her royal robes and entered into the inner court of the palace, just across from the king's hall. The king was sitting on his throne facing the entrance, and when he saw Queen Esther standing there in the inner court, he welcomed her. Other translations say he showed her favor. He welcomed her and he held out his golden scepter to her. That's a good thing. So Esther approached and touched the end of the scepter. Then the king asked her, "What do you want, Queen Esther? What is your request? I will give it to you, even if it is half the kingdom." So she survives. That's good news. On top of that, Xerxes says, hey, ask for whatever you want and it's yours. That's what he means by saying, I'll give you up to half the kingdom. So currently, if we're keeping score in this game, Esther's winning. Winning requires risk, and risk requires the proper preparation and posture. Esther sets the example. Let's start with prayer and fasting. Hear me on this. You will never win any kind of spiritual battle whatsoever without prayer. You just won't. Skills, experience, talent, grit, I mean, that stuff's all great, but that's not what wins spiritual battles, not at all. And that's exactly what you and I are facing today. Man, look outside, all of the division and corruption in the world, the violence, the pain, the fear, the anger, the bitterness, the hatred, the evil. Ephesians 6 makes it clear what that is. Paul says this, he says, for we're not fighting against flesh and blood enemies, but against evil rulers and authorities of the unseen world, against mighty powers in this dark world, and against evil spirits in the heavenly places. That's exactly what Esther's dealing with. Haman's plot, that's demonic. Like, that's what she's against. There's no way she can win that fight without prayer, no chance. Like, what we do when we fight, the very first thing we do is we fight on our knees. If you call yourself a Christian, we fight on our knees. And that seems scary because we're supposed to puff up our chest. I got this. Let's be very American and charge forward. That's great, just not in spiritual battles. Not at all. We fight on our knees first. That's the first tactic to fighting whatever we're trying to win. Because prayer is dependence on God. Prayerlessness, that's dependence on self. And if God is not in it, then no human endeavor is ever going to win in a spiritual fight. God has to be in it. Esther knows this. Then there's fasting. Fasting isn't something we talk about very often, so let's be clear on what it is. Biblically, fasting is you choosing to give up food for a certain period of time so that you can create a greater dependence on and connection with God. Fasting is not a diet plan, even though there are health benefits from it. And maybe all of us need to fast after this past Thursday. I do after Friday also. And you know what? I would make those choices all over again. It's not a diet plan. In fact, Jesus quotes Deuteronomy when he's fasting in Matthew 4. He says, man does not live on bread alone, not at all, but on the very word of God. So fasting's not giving up Netflix or social media for a time. That's great. If you want to do that for some kind of discipline, that's great. It's just not fasting. Biblically, fasting is giving up food for a certain amount of time, maybe 24 hours or longer. And when you do that, you're saying, I'm giving up something that I need to survive like food. God, I need you and your word even more than I need food. Then when you get hungry during a fast, that's your signal to go to God in prayer instead of eating. Personally, fasting, not my favorite spiritual discipline, not at all. And when I say discipline, it takes discipline for me to do it. Maybe you're better than I am, but it takes discipline. But I will tell you this, it's probably the most impactful for me. My prayer life intensifies, my connection with God gets stronger, and so does my dependency on him. And only good things come from that. So, if you're about to take a risk that God is calling you to, you prepare for it with prayer and fasting. Like if you're having trouble overcoming something, like maybe overcoming some kind of temptation or sin, I just can't get past this, I'm still wrestling with this, prayer and fasting. If you want God to intervene in something, prayer and fasting. If you want to get ready for whatever's next on the horizon for you, you don't even know what it is, prayer and fasting. Then after the fast, it says that Esther put on her royal robes. So the book of Esther was originally written in Hebrew. The Hebrew literally says, put on royalty. She put on royalty. But don't gloss over that. That's powerful. Let me ask you a question, and it's probably going to sound a little bit weird. If you're a Christian, do you know who you are? Isaiah 61 talks about it. It says this, I will greatly rejoice in the Lord. My soul shall exult in my God, for he has clothed me with the garments of salvation. He has covered me with the robe of righteousness. Revelation 19:8 says, this is talking about the church, she has been given the finest of pure linen to wear. Then 2 Corinthians 5:21, for our sake, he, meaning God the Father, made him, meaning Jesus, to be sin who knew no sin, so that we might become the righteousness of God. If your faith is in Christ, then you are an adopted son or daughter of King Jesus. That means you're royalty. So know who you are. Put on your royalty. Royalty's not afraid of evil rulers or authorities. Lions aren't worried about hyenas. When you're in it, when you're facing adversity that you cannot faint in, when God is calling you to take a risk that will glorify him and bless other people, put on your royalty. Know who you are, know whose you are. That's what Esther did. She put on her royalty and she was courageous. She was courageous enough to go to the throne. And if she can do that, then you and I, we have no excuse. Here's what I mean. Compare Esther with us. Esther approached an arrogant and ruthless man who was sitting on the throne. We approach a God of love and mercy and grace who sits on the throne. Esther had nobody calling her to the throne. Nobody was inviting her, but she went anyway. We have an invitation. Revelation 21 says the Spirit and the bride say to us, come on, come. Esther had the law against her. We have a promise from King Jesus. He says in Matthew 7, he says, keep on asking and you'll receive what you ask for. Keep on seeking and you will find. Keep on knocking and the door will be open to you. For everyone who asks receives, everyone who seeks finds, and to everyone who knocks, the door will be opened. Esther had nobody to introduce her or advocate for her. We have an advocate. 1 John 2 says that we have an advocate with the Father, Jesus Christ the righteous. Xerxes held out a golden scepter to Esther, showing her favor. Do you know what our scepter is? The cross. That's what's been held out to us. Because of that, what's greater, some golden scepter or the cross? Because of that, because of the advocate we have in Jesus, Hebrews 4:16 says, let us then with confidence, key word, let us then with confidence draw near to the throne of grace, that we may receive mercy and find grace to help in the time of need. Taking a risk is a time of need, is it not? Adversity is a time of need. Any kind of spiritual battle is a time of need. The thing that feels like a dark cloud over your head right now, that's a time of need. Trying to rescue people who are stumbling to the slaughter and being taken away to an eternal death, that's a time of need. Esther was incredibly courageous for approaching the throne because she had no idea what was going to happen to her. She could be killed. So how much more courageous should we be? Because we know what happens to us when we approach the throne, and we can approach it with confidence. Make prayer and fasting part of who you are. Follow her example. Know who you are. Put on your royalty. And be courageous because of who your advocate really is. So Xerxes says to Esther, all right, ask for whatever you want. And she says, all right, would you and Haman come to a feast that I have prepared today? She wants to serve these guys first. So the three of them go to this feast, and it's awesome. Like, Esther's smart. She knows exactly what they like. She has their favorite meals prepared. She gets out the good wine, not the boxed wine, but the good wine. It goes awesome. Maybe even too good, if you know what I mean. And when it's all over, Xerxes says again, okay, Esther, ask for whatever you want. It's yours. Just ask. And she says, would you and Haman come to another feast that I'll prepare tomorrow, and there I'll make my request to you? Now, why draw it out? I mean, come on, you've got the green light. Let's just get to the point. Let's not waste time. Let's ask. I mean, that's how my head works. But Esther's smarter than I am. She's not pushing too hard, too fast. She's using wisdom. She's using discernment. She's reading the moment. On top of that, God's still working behind the scenes, and something else has to happen first. God is going to let Haman do something first. If you remember from 2 weeks ago, God has this awesome track record of causing evil plans to blow up in the faces of those who plan it. That's where we're going. So Haman leaves this feast and he's feeling great. Maybe because he had too much to drink, maybe because he's arrogant, probably a combination of both. He leaves, he's feeling great until he sees Mordecai. Mordecai won't stand up for him. Mordecai won't bow down for him. Mordecai's not afraid of him, and that makes Haman just furious. He's so ticked off. So he goes home and he gathers all of his family and his friends, and he just starts talking about how great he is. He starts bragging about how rich he is, how many kids that he has, all the honors the king has given him. He talks about how he's been promoted above everybody else and how only he and the king got invited by Queen Esther to a feast today, and he gets to go to another one tomorrow. He just talks about how great he is. Side note, if you have to tell people how great you are, yeah, you get it. You're probably not very great. If you have to name drop all the time, if you have to give your resume, like here's what I'm doing, here's what I'm a part of, you're probably not very great. Haman, he keeps going. He just doubles down on it. Then Haman added, but this is all worth nothing as long as I see Mordecai the Jew just sitting there at the palace gate. So Haman's wife, Zeresh, and all his friends suggested, hey, set up a sharpened pole. Some translations say gallows right there. Set up a sharpened pole that stands 75 feet tall, and in the morning, ask the king to impale Mordecai on it. That's lovely. When this is done, you can go on your merry way to the banquet with the king. This pleased Haman, and he ordered the pole set up. Sounds like a great wife. He married really well. Great friends too, right? Now, if you can spout off everything that you've been blessed by and all the blessings that you have, and still in the exact same moment be enraged because you feel like you've been slighted by one person, that's incredibly insecure. It's petty. There's something wrong there. Mordecai lived rent-free in Haman's head. And it's easy for us to look at Haman and say, come on, bro. But there's a question that we've got to ask ourselves. Is there someone or something that's living rent-free in your head right now? It's become an unneeded distraction. It can even lead you down the same dark path it did Haman. I mean, this guy said, everything that I have is worth nothing because of this one person. I mean, is there something or someone that makes you feel like everything you have is worth nothing? Whatever that thing or person is, that's what you're enslaved to. For Haman, it was being worshiped by all people. He wanted to be worshiped by everyone, and because Mordecai was the only person that wasn't, man, he couldn't get past that guy. Man, I can't stop thinking about this guy. It could be that for us, like self-worship or having other people worship us. Maybe it's approval and praise from other people. Maybe it's a certain income level. That's thinking about that. That's what we're slave to. Or what about this? What if you're enslaved to somebody that doesn't like you? Man, this person that doesn't like you, you just are always thinking about him or her. They're taking your thoughts and your emotions, like you just can't understand why they don't like me. So then you come up with different ways to try to make them like you, or the complete opposite. You want to discredit them or cut them down to other people, or maybe just in your own mind so that they feel worthless to you, and that makes you feel better for yourself. Like whoever or whatever lives rent-free in your head that does not allow you to be content or satisfied with where you're at and what you have, that you're a slave to, that will lead you to hatred and bitterness. And hatred and bitterness will destroy a person. It will destroy you. We can see that in real time in the world we live in, do we not? I mean, I don't feel like I'm speaking hyperbolically, but I feel like so much of what I see out there and what I hear and what I experience is just bitterness, anger, and hatred. Feels like it's burning. I mean, I've started taking different apps off of my phone because every time I open them up, it's either fear, anger, or bitterness, maybe all of the above. And I can just feel the cortisol starting to run through my body when I start scrolling. That's so much. It will destroy an individual. It will destroy a society, and that's what's happening. But this isn't something new. This has happened for all of human history. It just may be new to us right now. Bitterness will grow roots deep down in a person to the point where they will control and corrupt a person. And Hebrews 12:15 says, watch out for this. It says, watch out that a poisonous root of bitterness is poison, doesn't grow up to trouble you, corrupting many. So hear me on this. You cannot let bitterness take root in you. For whatever, you cannot let it take root in you. And nobody ever thinks that's happening to them. Like, I'm not bitter. It's these people over here that are bitter. Or you know what, you should talk to my friend. Good grief, bitter. I'm not bitter. Nobody ever thinks it's happening to them. So if you want to be sure, ask someone who knows you really well that loves you enough to tell you the truth. Do I have any bitterness in me? Do I have seeds of bitterness? And man, I'm grateful there have been people in my life that have called it out in me. Man, I think you're bitter about this. Well, I got stabbed in the back because of this. I don't care, you're still bitter. Yeah, that stinks. Have somebody point it out to you, because if you have any kind of bitterness, don't try to control it, you gotta cut it out. It's cancer. We cut out cancer. Like for Haman, it was one guy. So for us, like for you and I, if the mention of one person's name makes you angry, there's probably some bitterness there. That's what I've had to be called out on before. And if you just ignore it or hide it or try to make some superficial behavioral changes, that's not taking care of it. That's actually you protecting it, and it's allowing it to grow. Is there someone or something that is robbing you from being content and satisfied with the good that you have? Have you experienced some kind of wrong where you've been wronged? And it just feels a whole lot better and safer to hold on to anger. Holding on to anger feels like that will hurt a lot less than leading in and leaning into healing. Bitterness will destroy you. Haman and Esther, two totally different postures. Haman was absorbed in self-importance. Here's how great I am. Let me name drop. Let me show you my resume. Look at what I have. Look at how awesome I am. He's the picture of pride. Proverbs 16:18 says, pride comes before destruction. Or maybe you've heard it said this way in other translations. Pride comes before what's the word? Fall. Yep. Anybody else experienced that before? Don't make me be the only one that's raising my hand. Without giving too much away of what's going to happen in the story, I'll say this. Your pride will get your gallows ready. If the book of Esther was going to restate Proverbs 16:18, it would say, your pride will get your gallows ready. Esther was the complete opposite. She was the epitome of humility. Great verse to memorize. 1 Peter 5:6. She embodied this. It says, humble yourselves, therefore, under the mighty hand of God, so that at the proper time he may exalt you. At the proper time. Such a time as this. When God has moved all of the pieces into place, that's when he will exalt the people who have humbled themselves to be used in powerful and incredible ways. I'm going to remind you of this prayer too all the time. It's one of my favorites to pray for myself. God, help me humble myself so you don't have to. Pray that often. God, help me humble myself so you don't have to. Esther is the first part of that prayer. Haman, the second. And we're about to see it play out. Let me pray. God, thank you so much for the story and how you speak to us, and you've wired us to hear stories and know truth from it. Esther's story is such a great example of that. So like today, with what's going on with chapter 5, God, would you give us the courage to go to the throne like she did? We have every reason to be confident. You've told us that we can because of your son. We have an advocate. Give us confidence to go to the throne when we need help, when we need mercy, when we need grace. Let our strength not be small. Let us not faint in the day of adversity. Help us to keep people that are stumbling to the slaughter and holding back people that are being walked to death right now. That our church would lean into that. That we would step into risks that you're asking us to take for your glory and to bless other people. Give us that courage, give us that confidence, give us that peace. Let us know who we are, that we're your adopted sons and daughters. That means we're royalty. Help us put on our royalty just like Esther did and walk forward. We love you. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.